For a crucial Game 6 tonight, the chippiness in this series has picked up as Golden State looks to close out Houston. All right, Jay Will, who'll be the biggest factor in the Warriors closing out the Rockets tonight?
I think it has to be Jimmy Butler, y'all. I mean, this is why you got Jimmy Butler in this moment. This is why Mike Dunleavy made that move to bring him on board. And in a time where that right thumb for Steph Curry is a real thing, and I've often joked around with people that I think Ime Udoka is the coaching version of Draymond Green as a basketball player, right? And I don't think that's dirty. I think that's basketball strategy on shots that you can hit people after the shot, or when Steph gets low with the ball, raking down on the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if multiple players take hard fouls in the first quarter to kind of set a tone for the physicality of the way the game is going to be called, which is also another very important factor. But the reason why I say Jimmy Butler is, look, Steph has moments, but I called him the greatest technician teammate in basketball because he's willing to live in the trenches. He is the Batman of this team if Steph is the Superman. And the ability to win that war in the trenches against these dogs of Houston will ultimately determine if the Warriors can win this Game 6 tonight. And my thing is Jimmy Butler has to be next level. He's picked his spots here and there, but if he can tactically pick the moments to be great, the Warriors will have a high probability of winning the game. But they better win it tonight, Stephen A. They better win it tonight. It goes back to Houston. That ain't going to be good.
I agree with you there. I definitely think they need to win tonight, and I think they will win tonight. And I'm going to tell you why, Jay. Jalen Green. I agree with your answer to this question about it being Jimmy Butler, but I'm going to speak about Jalen Green. This kid is young, got athleticism off the charts, had a big game in Game 2. It struck me, it didn't escape me that the one game where he exploded, where he's dropped 38 points, was the game Jimmy Butler got hurt early and was out the rest of the game. Other than that, Jalen Green in the other 4 games has scored 7, 9, 8, and 11 points. A total of 35 points on 31% shooting. That is unacceptable. Jalen Green, that is unacceptable. So we can see Dylan Brooks. Fred VanVleet has been great. You know Thompson is going to show up, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. You know Ime Udoka is going to have them boys ready. He has played in. If he's there tonight, I think he's going to be a big factor, the biggest factor, because I think Steph is going to do what Steph does. But I think Jimmy's going to have to help out, making sure he's effective when it really counts.
I will say, I am starting to find myself rooting for Dylan Brooks. He broke up a fight the other night.
Yes, he did.
I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Like
this man
Dylan.
is locked in right now.
He's locked in. He's locked in. He's showing his veteran leadership, his toughness. He doesn't back down from anybody or whatever. He has a role to play in Ime Udoka's system. If Jalen Green is doing what he's supposed to do, Houston might be up 3-2 in this series instead of down 3-2.
Game 6, 9 Eastern on
strategy decision by Kerr and the Warriors.
Yeah, it can work, and it can go in the opposite direction. And I think you said it kindly, quasi-punting. He pulled his starters with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. So, I mean, that is punting, and that is, calling for a fair catch. So Tim Legler, you've been around all these series and all the rest of that. What is your sense on where we are going into Game 6 tonight with the Warriors? I feel like if they don't get this one at home, then the series goes completely in the other direction. What's your sense of it tonight going into Game 6?
Yeah, I agree. Look, I do think that, when you look at all these first-round matchups and matchups in general in the postseason, I think Golden State would be a team that you would say is capable of winning a Game 7 on the road. You're not going to dismiss a team with Steph Curry on it, Jimmy Butler. Having said that, yeah, this is their opportunity. What happened the other night set this up. And the key for me is going to be what the Warriors do to create more opportunities in space for Steph Curry, because Houston, for the most part, this entire season has done a great job on him. You remember that game late in the year? They held him to 3 points on 1 of 10 shooting. They did it to him again the other night. Now, that game got out of hand, so we're not exactly sure, what Steph Curry would have had in store in the second half of that game. But he's dealing with the thumb. He's also dealing with a team as committed as any I have ever seen against Steph Curry, playing on the top side and negotiating and communicating these switches perfectly so that he ends up with an elite, physical, long defender on him that's denying him his running routes, denying him his catches. I want to see what Golden State does to take some of the pressure off of him and create some space.
Windy, let me just get a quick injury update. Like, Windy, we've all seen the thumb. It looks terrible. I mean, there's really no other way. I mean, Steph Curry's thumb looks really bad. This picture went super viral the other day. Do we have a sense, and Steve Kerr talked about the rules and everything that will change, do we have a sense of just how badly hurt his thumb is?
Well, I can tell you he's been dealing with it for weeks. He's had it wrapped for many games, and it doesn't seem to be affecting his production. He's still shooting the ball great. I honestly think the Warriors are still more worried about Jimmy Butler's glute injury having bigger effect on the game. But as if Dillon Brooks and the Rockets weren't trying to hit Steph Curry on the hand every chance they got anyway, certainly seeing that photo, you're only going to see it probably happen more in this game tonight.
You know, Ime Udoka, the head coach for the Houston Rockets, feels to me like the Draymond Green version of a coach, right? With strategies that he employs, right?
Yeah.
And these are strategies. These are not dirty plays. We've heard this saying all the time in basketball that your hand is part of the ball. And Legs make mention of them top blocking, them getting on the high side. Look for active hands tonight. Steph plays and dances with the ball. His hand is very vulnerable. Now, Jimmy Butler's another guy that can go off. But if you can take Steph out of the equation, it increases your probability of winning this game massively.
Is that dirty play or is that strategic
That's
play?
strategy.
Yeah.
That's strategy.
Because, you know, like.
And by the way,
it's an obvious injury, but its strategy tells me I got to use it against you. You're too great a shooter for me to just lay off. It's the playoffs. So hitting his hand feels like, oh, that's dirty what they're doing. But
and Steve Kerr talked about this the other day, and I hear him saying at some point this has to be illegal, but like, you can't call for that to be illegal. Or
what do you mean, like if a guy's injured, you can't?
No. The rule that he's talking about, what you're talking about, there is a rule in the NBA now that once the shooter releases the shot, his hand is fair game. Yeah. It's not called a foul. And so what Steve said the other day is that he said all 30 coaches would want that rule out of the game because guys are whacking away. Tim Legler, you would know better than anybody. The second you release the ball, suddenly your hand is fair game. Boom, these guys are coming in, they're chopping away at it, and that's where they can hit Steph, and they know they're not going to get called for a foul. Give me a quick final moment on that.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic in that we talk all the time about it not being as physical in the NBA anymore. But actually, that's one rule and one thing I didn't have to deal with as a shooter. They protected my follow-through in my hand at all times, all the way through the shot. Now, it is a lot different with what you're allowed to get away with after the release. And I think, look, Houston understands you've got to be obviously aggressive with your closeouts on Steph Curry, but I do think there is probably talk amongst that team. You've got to stay with your contest all the way through on Steph Curry well after he's released the ball because they're not going to really call it if the ball's out of your hand. And Steph Curry now dealing with any sort of contact in that moment on that thumb is going to aggravate that over and over. He's not going to feel right until he gets a full off season of rest.
Now, look, I mean, going after a player's injury is called sports. It's been going on as long as these games have been contested. You'll see the action tonight. Steph and Jimmy and the Warriors looking to close it out in Game 6. This is a fascinating scenario. Coverage tips with NBA Countdown tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Coming up, oh, he said it. JJ goes there on the Laker, Luka letting them down. The question is, will Doncic do anything about it? Plus more on the Brunson burner. Do Jalen and the Knicks have enough to beat the Celtics? It's an interesting question. We'll try to get to the bottom of it